named tens of thousands, not 1,000, tens, the plural, tens of thousands, marching peacefully for their right to return to the homes they were driven out of. And I tell you, if what has happened to the Palestinians had happened to me and my family, I would fight back. It's only healthy. And by the way, if you don't fight back, there are dark forces all over the world looking at Israel and saying, that's how you solve a problem. You drive out the minority. They're looking at the Israelis from Myanmar. They got a lot of Israeli weapons in Rwanda and in Bosnia. Friends, we can't dwell on the horror. We don't have an hour or a week to talk about it. But British government complicity is deep and profound. Britain started the whole dirty business. I'm turning up at your home next week to say, I had a revelation from God, and I'm taking you home, and I'm driving you out. And you would call the NHS, and I'd be looked after quite well. But not if I came with the American army behind me, or the British army. Palestinians are the victim of a grotesque injustice. I don't think anybody here needs to be persuaded. But really, don't imagine you know the depth of it. Don't imagine you know how horrible it is. You need to study. Amira Haas, a great Israeli journalist, reported 2 days ago. You know, everybody born in Israel goes on everybody born in Gaza goes on the Israeli registry. Otherwise, they'll never get out. Amira described 2 days ago how Israel was deliberately wiping out entire families. Do you hear me? Wiping out entire families deliberately. And that's what's happening. That's the horror. And the weapons come from Britain. They come from Glenrothes. They come from Cruthole in Edinburgh. They come from Govan in Glasgow. And I don't know if they come from anywhere near here. But we have to stop them. We have to stand together and organise. Friends, it's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. We welcome the statements from the SNP leader, Nicola Sturgeon, and Hamza Yusuf. But their new Minister for External Affairs is Angus Robertson. He's a complete Zionist. He's an enemy of supporting the Palestinians to resist their dispossession. And if anybody thinks I'm here to attack the SNP, the Labour Party, we welcome the statement from Anas Sarwar, but they're led by Sir Keir Starmer, who actually is a determined driver out of all Palestinian voices from his party. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we can win. The Palestinians resist, and by their resistance they are inspiring people around the entire world. This one's different. This one's different. You can smell it. I was in Glasgow. I was one of the organisers in Glasgow on Sunday. 10, 12, 15,000 people, angry as never before, younger than ever before. We're going to change things, but don't wait for other people. You will have to come together and organise and discuss. There's no textbook written about this. Please, let's discuss how to organise in Falkirk between massacres. And here's some good news. Israel is already a pariah state. By every measure of public opinion, the BBC does an annual poll around the world. Israel is not trusted by the huge majority of people. Many years ago, the EU conducted an opinion poll across Europe, and they gave 25,000 people in 15 countries, which country's the biggest threat to world peace? North Korea, Syria, Libya, America. Israel came top. In every country in Europe, Israel came top. And the Israeli Minister for Foreign Affairs, Franco Frattini, he promised Israel these opinions would not influence the flow of arms. He apologised to Israel for the opinion of Europeans. Friends, thanks for listening. It's very, very grim. Palestinians cannot, I'll finish by saying this, Palestinians cannot win against Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, all the Arab dictatorships pretty much, the USA, Britain, the EU, they cannot win. They need the support of you. And the Italian dockers who refused to unload arms for Israel 3 or 4 days ago. And the dockers in Durban in South Africa have refused to unload Israeli ships. Israel can be beaten, but only by you, only by people like you. There's nobody else coming. As the American poet said, and I never tire of saying it, we are the people we have been waiting for. We, nobody else. Thanks, friends. Palestine will be free, and you need to be able to look back from that date in the future and say, I was with Palestine then and now. Not now and then, not between massacres.
We've got the Imam of Falkirk Central Mosque here speaking.
Recognise me. I am the Imam of Falkirk Central Mosque. There's just one simple message I need to give to you guys, which I gave at the Jum'ah Salah as well. In the Quran and pretty much in every single holy book that we have seen, if you look at the books of the Christians and if we look at the books of devoted Jewish people as well, in there, just as well as in the Quran, God has stated that He does not change the state of the people if they do not change their state within themselves first. So the first and foremost, the first thing that we need to do is to educate ourselves about what is actually happening around the world. There is a lot of people who are attending the protest, which is an amazing victory for Palestine as it is. But this happened before. This has happened already. What we need to do is come up with practical solutions of how we can make our voices heard. The sister was speaking before me, got a glimpse of what she was saying, and she's already mentioned things like practically boycotting those things which are helping the oppressors, the people who are oppressing the human lives that are in Palestine. So practically we need to go against that, not just by our tongues, but with our actions as well. You know, if you go to the supermarkets and your favorite chocolate's there and it says made in Israel, can you turn away from that? If we go to the stores and the cheapest thing we can find is that which is sporting the oppression of the Palestinians, can we stay away from that? These are the things that we need to think about. And last thing, I was speaking with an MP. I was in England just last week. One of the members of parliament, he was saying that the voices that come from the people in the form of letters to the MPs is something that shakes the MPs. Practically, we need to start doing these things. This has been happening since 1948. This is not something that started yesterday. That the families being murdered, massacred, driven away from their homes has not just started yesterday. In Palestine, it has been happening since 1948. And pick up the books of history and you can see that it's been happening throughout history. Anyone who has this superiority complex has done this in every single time period of this world. But how did the people get rid of them? By practically doing something against them. The oppressors are a few, the oppressed are many. When we look around in Palestine, I have friends whose families are stuck in Palestine. A very dear friend of mine, his father is still in Palestine. He's a doctor in Palestine and he refuses to leave because that is his house. So what we need to do is come together, have this conformity, and stand against the oppression, not just by marching the streets. The protests are beautiful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward everyone who comes to them. But we need to practically go against the oppression. And the only thing that is going to harm them is the actual financial boycott that me and you can do. These are the things that are in our control. The variables that we can control, control them. The things that we can do them. Because we do believe in a higher power. We do believe in the oppressor's destruction now or later. We do believe it is going to happen. Why? Because history has told us this. Whenever someone starts to oppress those who are weaker than them, then something happens out of the extraordinary. And that will happen with Palestine as well. Whether we do something or not. So we need to be those who can turn around and say, like the brother before me was saying, we can turn around and say that we were the ones who made this change happen. We were the ones who stood up for Palestine. And it is not just about Palestine. If it can happen in Palestine, it can happen anywhere in the world. If we do not speak up against the oppression that is happening on the brothers and sisters of Palestine, who is to say that this oppression will not fall upon us? We sleep safe and sound tonight, but it only takes one night, as we have seen, when the armies marched into Palestine. The children, they could not celebrate even their Eid. The children, the women, they are being massacred and murdered. And these things will not stop until we change the ways we live. Until we become those people who we want to see in power. The youngsters, my brothers and sisters, the ones who are in uni right now, why are we not stepping forward and becoming the politicians of tomorrow? Why are we depending on other people to put our views forward? Why are we not the ones making those calls? I'd like to leave you with just one last thing. Remember that in every single religion of this world, oppression is one of the greatest sins. Whether you are a Jew, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, the biggest sin that we are seeing right now is oppression. And the one who stands when there is oppression happening and does not do anything, he is included into that oppression as well. So stand against the oppression. Again, I'm going to reiterate the facts of do something practically. Stand with them, not just with the tongue, but with the actions as well. Stand with those who are being oppressed, with the actions that you can perform right now. The first thing we can do is boycott them financially. The second thing we can do is educate ourselves. And the third thing is keep writing to your MPs. When someone comes to ask for the votes, your first question would be, or should be, what are you doing for Palestine? Give me an agenda for Palestine. Give me an agenda for oppression that's happening all over the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our coming here, and may He protect our lives and our families, and may He protect the lives of the Palestinians who are stuck in Palestine right now, and may He drive the oppressors out of the lands of the oppressed. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Palestine!
Assalamu alaikum everybody.
Walaikum assalam.
First of all, thank you to everybody for coming out today. I wasn't actually intending to speak, but one of the things that the Imam has just mentioned was about the word oppressed and the oppressor, and I was wondering if we could just take a little minute and think what it actually means to be oppressed, and are we humanity? It's a process of dehumanization. What does that actually mean? Can anybody put their hand up and tell me what does it mean to be dehumanized? It's not a rhetorical question, I'm actually looking for answers. What does it mean to dehumanize another human?
Being stripped of their human rights?
Being stripped of their human rights.
Easy to target.
Someone who is easy to target.
Less human.
What does that mean though, less human?
Means their lives don't matter.
Their lives are not as worthy as your lives. Anything else?
How about the kids? The young people here.
Inhumane behaviour.
Inhumane behaviour. What do we mean by inhumane behaviour?
Not getting treated like a human.
Not getting treated like a human. What does that mean?
Denied education, denied medical help, denied a voice.
Education, denied medical help. Now yesterday, like so many today with us, we've all had our vaccinations, yeah? My arms did from mine yesterday, but we'll get there. The point is that while I was going there, and I'm sure every single one of you who has been felt that little bit of you felt special. Yeah, because your government here actually cares about its citizens. Have we heard of any Palestinian people getting their vaccinations?
No!
Have we? Why?
They've been denied it.
Why?
Because they're Palestinian.
Because they are oppressed. This is an example of dehumanization. It is an example of wiping out people. Of wiping out those who they feel that are not worthy of saving. And what can we do about it? Well, one of the things...
We can unite against violation.
So we can unite against violation, but how? What can we do here in Falkirk to help our brothers and sisters?
We can tell the world the way they are living over their lives.
Educate!
Educate them.
The power of social media, as we've realised over these last 12 months, has been to uncover the wool over so many people's eyes and about the realities of how people are living. So if you're sharing stuff on social media, that's fantastic, but it's not enough. Having that conversation, a lot of people are too scared to talk about Israel and Palestine for the fear that they're going to be branded as anti-Semitic. Do you agree with me on that? Because I certainly have been one of these people.
Yes!
And how unfair is it that when we talk about human rights, that we're branded as such? Again, that is another form of dehumanization. You're taking away our right, our freedom of speech that is so cherished in this country. Another thing that we can do, also, in fact, another thing about dehumanisation is we've got lots of children here today. I had to fight with my kids to come out today, and I'm sure many of you others might have as well. Because it's about, when we listen to the suffering of other people, how does it make us feel?
Horrible.
Sometimes it does, but we're all converted here. We all believe in the rights of the Palestinians. We all believe in human rights, but what about those people who don't?
It's not their problem.
It's because it's somewhere else.
Yep.
It's not their problem. It's not happening in their doors. The lack of empathy, the lack of sympathy, that is also a factor into the dehumanisation process. So for anyone who does lack sympathy, that right there and then, that is a self-reflection on what your mental mind state is. How do we invoke empathy and sympathy to our communities that we live in?
By sharing stories.
We tell a narrative, we tell a story. we see this is why the media has not like the mainstream media, but the power of social media is the fact that when we see little children, I see children the same age as mine. I see children the same age as your children who are suffering so badly, and it really hits home. People choose to turn a blind eye. Why? Because they can't deal with it. It's not their problem, not at all. But imagine if one last thing I'm going to say, there was such an uproar about lockdown, right? We had to stay at home. We have to adhere to all these social restrictions today. And so many people, hands up if you're fed up of lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah? I think I speak for all of us, yes. Aren't you guys fed up of being stuck inside the house? You love being at home. PlayStation all the time.
How about if you don't have PlayStation electricity then?
So imagine you've been stuck at home over the last 12 months, but times that by 10. So imagine if you're stuck at home with no electricity. Where are you going to get your food from? Where are you going to get your games from? How are you going to charge your phone? We can't. And we've got all these. We've got running water. We've got a stable roof over our head. We do not need to worry about bombs destroying our homes and destroying our families.
Yeah, we complain about lockdown, right?
And yes, exactly. We complain about lockdown. We complain about homeschooling. We complain about our education system. We complain about our health care system here as well. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, because hands down, I also do complain quite a lot. Anybody who knows me, you know that I'm a moaner and I'm a complainer. But I'm also one to make that change. So that's the final point I want to say is these practical things that we can do is to, first and foremost, is to instill empathy and sympathy with people who don't feel it, to choose to turn the other way. Because we know that the power of social media can and will make our voices heard, but we need to be a collective in that. So continue what you're doing, but don't be afraid to have that conversation. This is it's a political thing. It's about a government looking to wipe out a human race. I believe deep down when we talk about faith, all faiths of Abrahamic faiths promote peace and unity, and that is something that we need to focus on. I don't believe that there is any religion in the world that says it's fine to kill someone else for the sake of them just being of another faith. That is not true, and that is something that we need to be very vocal about and realise and educate our fellow brothers and sisters about as well. Thank you very much for listening to me. We are on Facebook Live as well as Masaar 4th Valley.
Can you spell that?
Pardon?
Spell it.
Masaar, ALMASAAR 4th Valley. We're also on Twitter and YouTube, so any videos etc. they will be put up on our social media, so please do share. And we do have our a rally next week as well, but I'll pass over to the organiser. It's a procession up to the Kelpies. The crowds are chanting "Free, free Palestine! Viva, 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 viva Palestine! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
Latest massacre of Palestinians. It's a massacre carried out with British support, with weapons from Raytheon and Fife, Glasgow, Edinburgh and other cities. There are arms factories in all these places which send material to Israel, without which they cannot commit the crimes they commit. I've been to Gaza, I've been to Palestine through the Israeli prison gates. 19 times. And I can tell you, every time it gets worse. The crimes escalate. Israel is conducting a very creative process to drive out Palestinians. It's not enough to look at the violence and say that's horrible. It is horrible. But why is it so violent? Because the Zionists have a project to take over every square metre of Palestine without any Palestinians. And that includes homes, villages, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I am not religious at all, but the Al-Aqsa Mosque is a central part of Palestinian national identity. And that's why the Zionists were attacking it. Now we have a ceasefire, and we welcome that. But remember how this started. Israel was throwing 30 Palestinian families out of their houses and onto the street. I've been there to Sheikh Jarrah. I've had coffee with a Palestinian family, and it was very weird. You know why? Because they were living in their garden under a tent, and American settlers, American Jewish settlers, had occupied their home. And these people passed by and sneered and jeered at the Palestinian family who were living in the garden of their own house. Would anybody tolerate that? Of course not. They would resist. If some nutcase came to your house and said, I've got a real estate deal with God and I'm going to kick you out and take over your house, I might let you live in a broom cupboard in the meantime. That's disgraceful and disgusting and beyond madness. The Palestinians have a right to your solidarity. They have earned it 10 times over, and we should give that solidarity. Gordon Brown is an MP, was an MP not far from here. He went to the Israeli Parliament and he praised a man called Menachem Begin. There is a memorial in Glasgow beside Kelvin Grove Museum, a memorial to the massacre of Deir Yassin, where the Israelis took the people, killed many of them, and took some of the survivors in trucks, paraded them round the city, then took them to a quarry and shot them in cold blood. And Gordon Brown went to the Israeli Parliament and praised the man who organised that massacre, Menachem Begin. How disgusting can you get? Silence from the political elite. Friends, the Palestinians need your solidarity. They need you here, but they need you on the keyboard between massacres. They need you writing to Falkirk Pension Fund to say, thank you for kicking out Israeli bank Hapoel Alim. Time to Divest got a letter from the head of Stirling Council to say we hope this divestment reassures you as to the integrity of the council. We will take that as a first instalment. We want more. We want clean investment. I'm a pensioner. I don't want to live off blood. I don't want to live off the murder of people in Palestine or in Yemen. We look back from this point in history and we think, how could people ever buy and sell black people as if they were dogs or cars? How could they buy and sell human beings as objects? Well, they did. And a lot of people at that time accepted it. From some time in the future, people will look back on people who go to work to make weapons to kill people for profit. For profit. And they will kiss their own children goodnight. And then they'll go to work and they'll make bombs to blow Palestinian children and Yemeni children to pieces. And then they'll kiss their children goodnight after a hard day's work. It's not acceptable. We have to get rid of it. We have to be clean. This diminishes us all. This is an abomination. It's an atrocity. And anybody who accepts it has to look at their ethical system, wherever it comes from. Friends, I went to Gaza once, in the middle of the night, after the Palestinians blew a big hole in the wall. And I just walked through. Stuff your visas. I walked through, and I was welcomed. And what did I learn? Palestinian children, they can hear the difference between an F-16 and an F-15. They know the types of drone that fly overhead constantly. What kind of world is it where children can tell the sound of military aircraft? It's a disgusting world. It's an abomination. It's an open sore on the surface of planet Earth. And all decent people should come to the aid of the Palestinians. And if you don't, you should ask yourself why you're not doing it. Friends, it's an honour to be here with you who've marched here, who've stood up for Palestine, who've decided you can't accept it anymore. The first rule of medicine, don't do any harm. You might not do any good, but at least don't do any harm. And we have to tell Falkirk Pension Fund, get rid of these dirty investments.
Hear, hear.
There's no difference between Al Capone and Murder Incorporated, who take a contract to kill somebody. Give me money, I'll kill somebody. That's evil. How evil is it to produce weapons, to blow up innocent children for profit? It's just the same. It's just as evil. And the good people of Falkirk and elsewhere need to get rid of this evil in our midst.
Hear, hear.
The highly skilled engineers can produce other things. My God, there's no shortage of medical equipment. There's no shortage in the NHS for the skills of engineers. You don't need to produce weapons to murder innocent men, women and children.
Everyone thinks they're on the screen and they're seeing what's happening firsthand. We've seen the power of people last summer, did we not?
Yes.
Hashtag BLM. Yes, we do. We support everybody who's oppressed, regardless of your faith, your country, your parents, your hair color, your eye color, anybody. So why is it wrong? Why is it wrong to put your voice up for Palestinians? Did you not share posts for BLM? Yes or no?
Yes.
Did you not share posts for Floyd?
Yes.
Did we not call out police brutality?
Yes.
That police brutality actually came from Israel. Did you share that post?
No.
Did you tell your children that their kids their age were murdered last week?
No.
Did you tell your children that kids their age were orphans?
No.
That they couldn't be buried because their pieces were missing?
No.
How can you not care? How can you be a mother? How can you be a human if you think that only your life matters and nobody else's? An attack on an oppressive state is not an attack on any religion. It is an attack on the government and their policies. Now, as a teacher, I'll stand here and I'll go into classrooms. I'm just a humble teacher, 3 kids here, trying to survive. That's me right there, the Facebook Live here. I've got lots to say, and I will be back next Saturday at 1 o'clock to say more, so we'll be organised again. This is not enough to come for one time at the Kelpies here. I hope it's a beautiful day.
Keep walking.
What I'm trying to say here is that everybody has a duty to learn what's happening, and here's the hard part. We need to unlearn. If you hear me, we need to unlearn the narrative that has been given to us for the past 70 years, and we need to get to the damn source and listen to the people. I have been doing that all this week here, listening to Israelis and Palestinians, both of whom are against what's happening. We've got no excuse to stay quiet.
keep walking.
It's not easy for me to talk about this. Imagine how easy it is, how hard it is for people to experience it. You're tired of seeing these Facebook posts, Instagram posts. I'm tired of the people for being bloody bombed. We're tired. When Father was saying earlier on, we were mourning about businesses that are closed down. What about the damn businesses that are closed? We're tired and mourning at the fact that we don't know if COVID injections are safe or not. We'll have if you have a lifetime of unsafe water and then your health facilities bombed. I'm going to have